So when Cyberpunk launched in a very, very bad state, I think it was the horrible fucking game in history at launched. It like hands down. I think that people became too sensitive to gaming optimization, and right now, lately, literally every game gets called unoptimized for some reason or the other. And even some YouTubers, like you can see on YouTube, um, video game reviewers, if they see one hitch, they're gonna call the game unoptimized, and people on the comments gonna be like, "Oh yeah, poorly optimized, ill optimized. People, developers don't optimize games anymore. We need game developers who optimize game, then launch them. Don't launch them, then optimize them later. Blah blah blah." And this is every game, regardless of its optimization state, if it's optimized or not. And on my last video on Doom: The Dark Ages, it got a lot of negative comments because they thought the game, a lot of people thought the game it was not optimized. But I'm making this video to prove that people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And even some reviewers on YouTube, even them, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to optimization. I'm gonna make this video and tell you some things and the tropes that I go through to actually tell if the game is optimized or not. If the game has all these things, or like has, you know, most of these things, or one of sometimes if one of these things is in the game, then that means the game is not optimized. And let me just show you what I'm doing. Like, this is the Doom: The Dark Ages again. I'm not gonna be just doing Doom. I'm gonna be doing Doom: The Dark Ages, and this is 3060 Ti because I've seen most people have a 3060 or a 4060 laptop from Steam Hardware survey, and I have a 3060 Ti, which is the third place actually in the Steam Hardware survey. So if you have one of these GPUs and have a balanced build, for example, a 5600X or a 7600X or a 13600K or like a 12600K or something like that, that is balanced with this GPU, that does not bottleneck this GPU, then go look for these things that I'm going to show you. And if they appear on the game, then that's unoptimized, okay? And you have to respect your GPU, and it's gonna respect you back. So, for example, the 3060 Ti and the 3060, they were 1440p beasts, high settings. You know, you can use high settings 1440p. You're gonna be getting high FPS back when they launched 4.5 years ago, okay? This is 2025, folks. These GPUs are pretty old, okay? And your GPU is gonna stay the same kind of performance as it once released at. It's not gonna suddenly have like a learning curve and it's gonna become a 4070 or a 3080 Ti or a 3090 in performance. It's not gonna grow in performance. It's not gonna become suddenly good. It's gonna stay the same. But graphics, computer graphics, they're gonna become more complex. They can have more polygons. They can have, like, for example, more high fidelity assets. They can have more, you know, path tracing or ray tracing or something like that, and your GPU is just not gonna be able to run or to calculate and computate those. It's just gonna be costly for the GPU. It's not gonna be able to do it as fast as you want it to do it. It's not gonna be. It's like it's not gonna run it, but it's gonna run it, but pretty slow. Or you have to respect it. You have to give it the actual settings that actually go along with your GPU. You cannot just keep giving it 1440p high settings and expect that it's gonna run it at 60 FPS all the time. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Video game graphics evolve. If that was the case, then the fucking PS1 would be able to run Spider-Man 2 or God of War Ragnarok and without any problem. But no, hardware stays where it's at, but computer graphics evolve. So let me just show you. This is 1080p DLAA. No upscaling, and I'm using nightmare settings just to prove a point, because this GPU can only do medium settings, you know, play it good. But I'm using nightmare settings. I'm not using ultra nightmare. I'm just using just nightmare, because ultra nightmare goes like through the VRAM limitation. And this is 8GB GPU, and also 8GB GPUs are cooked. They're just not good anymore, because just look at how VRAM evolved. Like, from, let's say, what's the first time that we had an 8GB GPU? Back in, I think, 2015, right? Until now, this is 10 years. 10 fucking years. And still 8GB? No, it's just not acceptable, you know? It's just not acceptable. What is the last time that we had only 4GB GPUs? Like, 2012 or something. And from 2012 to 2015, there was a double jump in VRAM limits. And from 2015 to now, we're still fucking using 8 GB GPU. So it's just not good. Sure, Nvidia is fucking people over, and AMD is doing the same thing. But 8 GB GPUs are done, are cooked. They are just gimping, you know, game developers to make more demanding kind of things, graphics, and just, you know, they're just cooked. 8 GB GPU is just cooked. All right, so I'm gonna be using nightmare settings. I'm gonna be going back. I'm gonna change, well, save the settings. I didn't change anything just because I selected nightmare again. They said you want to save them, and as you can see, it's running, you know, 58, 55. Probably gonna drop to 55. The 1% lows are in the 50s, so the 1% lows are good. And just look at this game. This game is fucking beautiful, and boggles my mind that some people say that Doom Eternal looks better than this game. This game has ray tracing, sure, it's forcing that on you, but it looks so fucking beautiful, even at 1080p, that even Doom... I mean, Doom Eternal is good, but it's like nowhere close to Doom's Dark Ages kind of graphics. Are you telling me that this... Just look at this. Are you telling me that these graphics... Let's keep looking. This is the Doom, you know, Slayer doppelganger from hell. Are these graphics really better than this? Just look at the blood flowing. Look at the textures. Look at the fucking rocks. Look at the fucking hair. The skin texture. The faces. Is this really inferior to what to Doom Eternal? It just boggles my mind, man. It's stupid. Shut the fuck up. You know, if you think really that Doom Eternal looking better than Doom Dark Ages, you're just stupid. All right. So let's just jump into the game and stop ranting at people that, you know, have no common sense. So the first thing that you're gonna be looking for is FPS drops. If you see FPS drops in games, for example, like I was fighting these demons in some games that are like unoptimized games, they're gonna be dropping FPS. For example, I have like 59 FPS or 58. They're gonna drop to 19 or 20. Like, for example, this scene right here, because this is like somewhat intensive scene, you know, blocking all these beams of fire or laser or whatever the fuck they are. And this is a somewhat intensive scene. Let me just do it again. And as you can see, the FPS stays consistent, does not drop, does not flicker, does not flinch. Still the same. Let me just look at the simple thing. Like, for example, also like games when you like a fire or like some special effect, they drop FPS. This game doesn't. This game has the opposite. It has stable FPS. It has something that you would expect, you know, kind of FPS. And does not flicker, does not stutter, does not flinch. And something else, like the second thing is stuttering, whether it be traversal stutter, or would it be like just stutter for the sake of stutter, would it be shader compilation stutter, for example. Like shader compilation stutter is like the worst thing. Developers that put shader compilation in like within the gameplay are just stupid. Just put it outside in the main menu. Let me just wait for fucking 2 hours. I'll gladly wait for 2 hours if it means like I'm gonna be like gaming for like 3 months without any shader compilation stutters inside the game. All right, so let's just move on to the next thing, which is scaling. You know, if the game performance scales up when you drop resolution or you drop settings, does it scale? If it scales up, then that means that it's optimized. Let's just, you know, use DLSS instead of dropping settings. Let's just use DLSS. Let's just keep the graphics the same, but just use upscaling. Did it scale up? I had 58 before. Now I have 80 FPS. 80 FPS. I have 50, 55 or 58 or something. Well, yeah, it's a, you know, it's a jump, it's a big jump in FPS. Doesn't stutter, scales up, and does not have any FPS drops. And the CPU, you know, Doom does not really use a lot of CPU. Doom games, they are like pretty CPU fucking efficient. They are really resource efficient, well coded. You know, given their like ambitious look. Ambitious, I don't know why I said ambitious look with the ray tracing forced on you, but it's, you know, still ambitious because it's fucking looking great, right? It's looking great compared to the other Doom games. It's well fucking optimized, and people call it unoptimized for some fucking goddamn reason. So if you see these three things appear in a game, then that means they're optimized. But if you see it behave like Doom, right, when it's the opposite of what I said, the performance scales up, the game does not drop FPS, the game does not stutter, the game does not crash. Again, like crashes and bugs are like sometimes they are because of Windows. The Windows is just gonna fuck you up. If a thread from Windows meets a thread from the game and they collide, and they just, Windows just gonna kick out the game, it's just gonna crash. Or sometimes, because we've seen this in the past, if you have some dying CPUs, for example, the 13 and 14 gen Intel CPUs, you're gonna be noticing stutters, and you're gonna be noticing crashes because of the CPU is gonna kick you out of the game. It's gonna say, 3D fatal error because of the GPU, or it's gonna say you don't have enough VRAM or something like that, but that's because of the CPU. Okay, so right now let's just use let's say DLSS balance. I don't want to jump to DLSS performance, because even though I saw like Tim's from Hardware Unboxed video about DLSS, and it actually has with the transformer model has no fucking drops in quality between DLAA, the quality, or balance, or performance, or native without any DLAA. It still looks the same. And even like if you have like no DLAA, it looks worse than actually using upscaling, because TAA just sucks ass. I'm just gonna do balance. I'm just gonna be, I still have, nightmares from like ghosting and artifacting from DLSS performance of the CNN model. So I don't really, it's just a muscle memory thing. Just like people call every game unoptimized just because they want to call it unoptimized, just a muscle memory thing. That's me with this. And as you can see right now, the performance scaled up again from 80 to 90. Right, let's reset the 1% loads, and as you can see, they're in 80 FPS, and they're just trailing back to the actual FPS, the current FPS, and the GPU utilization didn't drop. The CPU utilization is still the same, because I said, like, the game is well coded and really resource efficient. It's not really that bad of a game, and yeah, and this is not just the only game that I'm gonna try. Let's actually let's just prove another point. Let's just go up in resolution. Let's just go 1440p. Let's just do 1440p. Let's say with the DLSS quality. Let's just say DLSS quality. Let's say DLAA. Well, 1440p. No, it's just gonna go above the VRAM. All right. So DLAA is not a thing because it's just going above the VRAM limitation. Let's do DLSS quality 1440p. Actually, let's look at it. Hopefully it doesn't. Okay, so it did not show me a black screen. All right, because the capture card sometimes fucks up and it shows me just a black screen. Shut the fuck up, you dead demon. All you have is skeleton and you're still attacking me. All right, let's now as you can see, 1440p with DLSS quality is, pretty much the same as DLSS, no DLSS 1080p, while looking better. Did it scale down on performance? Yes, it did scale down on performance, because this is 1440p and it's much more intensive than just 1080p. But again, it still scales up and scales down. I could use like DLSS performance, but I proved the point already. I don't want to, kick the horse while it's dead, or deader, like get it even more deader. So yeah, let's move on to another game and see if it has the same kind of things that I spoke about, which is Alan Wake, which is the game that get called unoptimized even more than this game. Okay, now Alan Wake, and if you see a shirt change, because this is me in the future, I found some corrupted scenes with Alan Wake, so I'm just redoing them. And as you can see right now, Alan Wake is running at 29 FPS, and it's a console experience. Right, we're gonna say Alan Wake is not really that good running, but let me show you the settings first. This is me disrespecting this GPU, and this is 1080p, sure. It's using medium and high setting. Medium preset is like basically everything on high settings, but 3 of the settings are on medium, and 1 of the settings is on ultra, and I'm using path tracing again. This is me doing something wrong, not the GPU and not the game, and I am not respecting my GPU, and it's not gonna respect me back, and it's giving me 22 FPS because it cannot do path tracing. And if I was stupid, I would call the game unoptimized, and the game needs to be optimized to run on my GPU better. Let's just go, right? Path tracing is like ray tracing times infinity, right? Ray tracing does like 1 bounce and 1 beam per pixel, right? Path tracing does like multiple beams per pixel and multiple bounces off objects, and it's like exponentially high. Let's just turn off ray tracing. If you have a 3060 or 3060 Ti or any 60 actual GPU, if the game is not forcing ray tracing on you, just turn it off. Ray tracing is not a 3060 or a 5060 or any 60 GPU specialty. All right, and as you can see right now, 60 FPS, 1% lows are in the 50s, and that like double the FPS just by disabling some resource intensive setting, which is the path tracing, and the game's running pretty good right now without any upscaling. Actually, this is using DLAA, and if I go and just say and you actually use DLSS, if I want even more FPS than 60, I could use DLSS, and it's probably gonna give me to the 80s. And as you can see, from 60 to 85, 83, which is pretty good. You know, it's pretty respectable FPS. The 1% lows are probably, you know, yeah, it's in the 70s, so yeah, it's not stuttering. So does it scale up when you reduce settings? Yes, it does. Alan Wake is optimized that way. It's just resource intensive. That's it. It's resource heavy, but it's actually doing that on purpose because it's pushing some cutting edge visuals. It has path tracing RTGI, which I'm not using right now. I was using, but I'm not using right now. It has some you know, complex assets like volumetric fog. It has all these, you know, blurriness around objects that of interest. As you can see, the blurriness here, and it happens somewhere. Like it has like even the fake lighting is good, which is not. I'm not gonna you know, say that it's as good as ray tracing or as intensive as ray tracing, but it has, you know, very high detailed areas, environments, because all these. I think you can read these. Like you can fucking read all these papers. These all like high assets and like high resolution textures. And as I said, volumetric fogs, like the fog around the game, and you know, everything like a high detail dense environment. Everything is just fucking beautiful about this game, but it's resource intensive. Is it unoptimized? No, it is resource intensive on purpose because it has to be that way. That's how the creators want it to be as realistic as possible. And as you can see, it's not stuttering, it's not dropping FPS, and it's actually, you know, parallelizing the work over like multiple CPU cores, unlike MindsEye, which was using one core, one thread, actually maximizing that shit to 100%, and the GPU was waiting on the CPU, but the CPU was waiting on the game engine, and the game engine is not, you know, making the CPU work more with more cores, not multi-threading. So yeah, it was a fuck up situation. And actually, with MindsEye, the scaling is fucked up. I was like 4K, 60 FPS, between 60 and 50 FPS. It scales up and down, it goes up and down, and then I went all the way to 1080p, and it was still 50 to 60 FPS, same kind of performance as 4K, while having like 25% of the 4K resolution. Welcome to Red Rock City, where your game is stuttering like hell. This is MindsEye. This is the latest and greatest fuck up of Unreal Engine 5, and it's made by Build a Rocket Boy Studio and published by IO Interactive. This game is not real, man. I'm dreaming, probably. Like, do we have another CyberPunk? Look how many times it's stuttering. That is unoptimized, okay? And this game is pretty much fucking optimized. This is just with DLSS quality. Let's just go DLSS balance. Let's just see. I want more FPS. The DLSS balance, which is, you know, pretty good. As I said before, the Tim's Hardware Unbox guy, he made a video about DLSS, and basically even at 1080p right now with transformer model, you see no fucking difference between native quality, and actually looks better than native quality with TAA, because TAA just sucks ass. And yeah, right now 90 FPS. It jumped again 10 more FPS just by you know, using balanced DLSS. So right now, instead of using you know, just aggressive upscale, let's actually go to 1440p. Where is 1440p? Is going to be on top here. Let's go for 1440p right now. Let's put 1440p right here. Let's keep the DLSS balanced right now. And as you can see, I still have 70, you know, 60 FPS or 70 FPS. 1440p. Okay? You cannot complain that this game is unoptimized while it's running like this. You know, this is some insane, you know, kind of performance for a 3060 to pull off on 8GB GPU to pull off. And still people call this game unoptimized, but this game is just, you know, genuinely resource heavy and demanding and needs power because it's actually, you know, pushing some fucking insane visuals on your screen. So yeah, let's use frame generation before I cut off this video. Let's actually use frame generation because I modded frame generation in, and as you can see, it's gonna probably jump to like 120 FPS, exactly like 107 FPS. And the 1% lows are gonna be looking bad because it's, you know, RTSS does not really know how to calculate that shit. So yeah, 120 FPS, 3060 Ti, 1440p, you know, medium, high, ultra settings mixed, and still gets called unoptimized. So let's jump into the second game, to the next game, not second game. Okay, now let's look at Resident Evil. And Resident Evil was called unoptimized as well when it launched. Low GPU utilization, stuttering, and all of that. And I think just people, because they have unbalanced GPU. I'm gonna show you later. But let me just run through the game first. And the options are, let me just go to the graphics right here. As you can see at 3060 again. This is 1440p, right? And it's using high settings. Why is it not scrolling all the way down? Using high settings instead of maximum settings, which is, you know, respectable settings. As I said, respect your GPU is going to respect you back. And I'm actually using the DLSS model, but now I'm using DLAA. And as you can see, the proof that DLSS is on DLAA. When I use DLSS quality, which is quality right here, it just jumps to 100 FPS. As you can see, DLAA looks, you know, good. It has 60 FPS or 70 FPS. It doesn't really drop FPS, as you can see. I'm gonna change scenery right here, and it's not gonna drop FPS. It's gonna stay consistent. As you can see, changing the scenery is gonna stay consistent. While I was looking at the wall, I mean at the door, because it's just the same as a wall. It's like looking at nothing. FPS was in 90 again, but the FPS actually, like in the gameplay, is gonna be around 70, 78 in 1440p high settings, which is, you know, respectable. It's a playable FPS in a game like this, and you don't really need more than that. And as you can see, Resident Evil looks fucking awesome. And even I'm using like Hairworks, like what the hair strands that they're using. I'm not using just the regular thing. I'm using hair strands on high settings, and yeah, the game runs pretty fine. And for Resident Evil, as I said like before, like this is why I said people that have unbalanced PCs or have like PCs that can't handle the game, but they blaming the game instead of blaming their unbalanced PCs. For example, this guy has a 3800X, but doesn't show what GPU they got, and he says 100 FPS dips below 60 FPS, which below 60% of GPU utilization. If 100 FPS is 100%, I don't know. Doesn't mention the GPU. I don't care about this. What I care about is the comments. Look at this fucking guy. Using Ryzen 7 3700X, but with a 4070 Ti. This GPU is going to be bottlenecked by this CPU unless you're playing on 4K. And even in 4K, it's nuanced. Probably some games going to be a bottleneck, some games not going to be bottleneck. But if you use, you know, upscaling, it's going to be bottleneck even at 4K. And the worst of all is this guy using 4090 with 10700K and complaining that the GPU utilization only 50%. No shit. This CPU is very, very weak compared to this GPU. And even like if you use the 5600X that I said should not be compared with this GPU, it's gonna run around this CPU in circles before the CPU can even do anything for this GPU. And it's gonna be better, and it's probably gonna boost his GPU utilization to 75 or 80% GPU utilization better than this fucking trash CPU. And this is why I say people, instead of blaming their hardware for being unbalanced or blaming the hardware for being not able to run the game at some kind of settings, they blame the game for not being optimized. It's as if people have PS5 or PS4 hardware, let's say PS4 hardware, and try to run a game that is running, you know, designed for PS6 at 4K 60 FPS at the same fucking graphics, 4K 60 FPS on a PS4. And when it doesn't run on those settings, they blame the game for not being optimized instead of blaming the PS4 for not being able to do that. Because if graphics did not evolve, as I said before, we're gonna be playing games on the fucking PS1, games like God of War Ragnarok or like Spider-Man 2 or Alan Wake with path tracing on a fucking PS1. But no, graphics evolve, your hardware is gonna stay the same. So you just have to accept that and actually use respective settings for your respective hardware. Fine. So let's, right now, I think I hit that emblem over there already. So let's just use DLSS, right? Let's just remove DLAA, use DLSS, and as you can see, it jumps to 120 FPS with DLSS quality at 1440p. And this is a game that can run on 1440p. I said you shouldn't be expecting every game to run on 1440p, but this is one of the games that can run on 1440p, but people still fucking call it not optimized on PC for some goddamn reason. And as you can see, it's not dropping FPS. The 1% lows, let me reset them. They're good because I didn't reset them when I changed the resolution to DLSS quality. And yeah, I mean, Look at this shit. The game runs pretty fine. Even when you shoot this high-powered gun, the game's still running pretty fucking awesome. No issues, none whatsoever. Oh, my reflexes are still as good as when I, started playing Resident Evil 4. Pretty awesome. Oh, I gotta take this. I fucking maximized this game, like 100% this game a long time ago. And I can, like, at least once every, like, 3 months or something, I need to actually run through it again. I play this game a lot, and that's my, my confession. Okay, now some game that is not really 100% optimized, which is still unoptimized. It's in the fences. It's here and there. It has like both feet at the both sides. 1 foot. As you can see, it's stuttering. FPS drops. Not didn't stutter. It dropped FPS. And if you can, I probably saw it in the video too. Not just me. And as you can see, every move you do, like most of the time, it's like running good. But for example, if you change the point of view, and as you can see, it's stuttering again. Again, FPS drop. You see, this is what I'm talking about. This is unoptimized. FPS drop again. FPS drop. This is FPS. This is FPS drops. When it's just not stuttering, it's actually dropping FPS. And my TV is telling me to update to the new software. Fuck no. I'm benchmarking a game. Shut the fuck up. And as you can see, it's using 7.6 gigabytes of VRAM, and this GPU has 8 gigabytes of VRAM, which is, treading on the limits of this GPU. And the thing, like the occlusion artifacts, even with DLSS using ultra quality instead of, because I'm using ultra quality, and let me just go through the graphics. As you can see, DLSS on ultra quality, which I put with this thing. I'm gonna be using frame generation as well, but I'm gonna be using later. I put this thing, it's like one to be like just like DLA, but it's still, the occlusion, if artifact, and even with the latest DLSS, still affecting it, and it's not really that good. But this is 1440p again with high settings. If I respect this GPU and give it, for example, 1080p, right? Let's just try 1080p without any upscaling again, like with DLSS ultra quality set to match DLA, and I don't see anything on the screen, but I see, yeah, I see it now on the screen. Now 1080p. I was in the 3060 36 FPS kind of range in this scene. Now I'm at 58, and as you can see, I respected my GPU, put the goddamn game in 1080p, which is actually can run better. It did scale up performance, which is pretty good, but it still has FPS drops and stuttering, that's why I'd say it has a foot here and a foot there. And the game is actually just fucking impressive. Even though you turn off ray tracing, the game still looks, because it's using Lumen again for ray tracing. Hardware Lumen is still, still intensive, but yeah, still it runs pretty fucking fine. So right now, let's see if not here. Let's see if I give it settings that actually can not run in a high setting. This is what the kind of settings that you would run it if you have a 4090 or something like that. Let's run it at medium settings instead. Keep TXAA. Okay, let's try medium settings and go back to the game. It did stutter a little bit, and as you can see now, I'm in the higher 60s instead of 50s. Now it dropped FPS again. You see, this is what I'm talking about. This is the drop of FPS or stutter, like heavy stuttering that I'm talking about. Not just stuttering for shader compilation or anything like that. No, it's dropping FPS. The drop of FPS, it actually, like, see, 16 FPS in the 1% low. 16. That's not good. And again, 15. If it drops all the way to 16 and goes back, and it drops to like 18 and goes back, that's FPS drops. So this is the kind of game that is unoptimized, but still, it's playable. It's not that bad. It's playable. So if you see FPS drops, right? This is what I'm talking about. FPS drops, stuttering, whether it be traversal stutter or shader compilation stutter or stutter just because you move the camera. This game does not really stutter when you move the camera, though it's still, still pretty much good. If you see stuttering, FPS drops. If you see, her hair looks fucking trash on medium settings. I mean, the jacket looks good. If you see performance not scaling up pretty good, if you see it not using the CPU and dropping GPU utilization, then that is unoptimized. But if a game has none of these things, then the game is pretty fucking optimized. Even though if it crashes, sometimes, as I said, sometimes Windows is gonna crash your game. Sometimes the CPU is dying, is gonna crash your game, just like the 14 and 13th gen of Intel CPUs. And yeah, crashes are not always the game. Those bugs and crashes, again, like not always the game is probably, but most of the time it's the game because it's not optimized. So yeah, if you see all these things, no performance scaling when you change the settings, and it stutters, traverses stutter, shader compilation stutter, and it doesn't use a CPU that well, it's not well efficient, it's not really using not all of your CPU cores, but if not, parallelizing the work on multiple threads, and if it has heavy FPS drops, just like we've seen in this Silent Hill Stutter Hill, when it drops like all the way to 16 or 18 FPS, when you have like 50 or 60 FPS, then that is not good. So yeah, I don't think that even DLSS is gonna solve this, because I can go and use DLSS, for example, go to 1440p, right, and use DLSS on balanced. I don't think that that's gonna solve it, but yeah, let's just try it. How can I apply? Oh, I can apply from here. Let's try DLSS balanced on 1440p. Let's just see before I end this video. And I can still not see nothing on this screen. Now I can see. All right. Right now. And as you can see, the VRAM limitation is hitting hard. Is it gonna go back to what it was before, or is it gonna keep, yeah. I should have just started with this before, doing it in the middle of gaming is just gonna keep it because it goes beyond the VRAM that I have, and just gonna keep stuttering even at DLSS balanced. But yeah, so if you learned something from this video, if you learned how, it came back. If you learned how to spot an unoptimized game before you just call a game unoptimized just for the sake of calling it unoptimized, if you learned anything from this video, press like or dislike if you dislike this video, and you're just gonna keep calling games unoptimized just for the sake of calling them unoptimized. And yeah, subscribe just because video games, and see you in the next video. Ciao.